kind of scoop a bit off of there. This has got to be the first time I've ever seen an idler turn to black goop. I've heard of belts doing that, but this idler has just completely made a mess inside here. That's the idler. You can see along this reel, along the edge there, it's transferred its disgusting goopiness onto that one and onto that one. So I'm gonna have to take this thing apart. I did test it out. It did play for a second, and the take-up reel sort of worked a little bit, just enough to get a picture. So it seems worth repairing. See if I can find a replacement tire for this. Oh, that's so gross. Oh, that's all fucked up. It looks like I was doing arts and crafts here. As you can see, the wheel is coming along. I'm just cleaning it up using Q-tips, some 99% isopropyl alcohol, and yeah, just making a mess, man. Just making a mess to clean it up. Look at that. It's all cleaned up. Some of that's just, there's a rough surface here. The goop is just in there, but it's as clean as it's gonna get. And I got a couple spare tires here. I think this one's probably gonna fit the best. It's got a larger inner diameter. This one, the inner diameter is a little bit too small to fit around this. So I just gotta go in and clean up all that crap now. Ugh. Alright, the thinner tire with the wider outer or inner diameter looks to fit just nicely. It's a little bit cracked. I think it was a used one I pulled off another machine, but I can probably get it going good enough for testing. And if we look inside, everything's nice and cleaned up. I cleaned both these reels. You can see there's no more goop on that one. There's no more goop on there. And there's no more goop on this reel here. Cleaned off that brake the best I could. Problem with this this reel on this side here is that, let's see if we can look around. There's a brake there, and there's a brake back in that upper corner, and they both touch the same surface as the idler tire. The brakes on this reel are both on the upper portion, so they were okay. So cleaned that all up best I could. Next step is popping it back in, seeing if it works.
They had no reason at all, economically or social.
Problem solved. Let's try the fast forward. I mean, as good as you could expect. Try the rewind. Decent. Alright, I think it's finally introduction time. This is an RCA VGT-450 from, I believe, late 1982, early 1983. This one doesn't have a year obviously stamped on it, but it's from thereabouts. It is in remarkably good shape except for two problems when I got it. The first one you've already seen. That idler tire down there had gone to goop and just gooped up everything in its path. Made it all nasty. So I've replaced it with a one that I've probably pulled out of another machine, but it seems to work good enough. I'm going to run some rubber renew on it just to, you know, make it work its best. And the other I don't even know if it's really a problem because I haven't solved it yet. See all this rust? The best I can tell is the goop, or the glue that held on the dew sensor, which is this guy here. I've already cleaned off the backside, but this was all nasty. Best I can tell is the glue that was holding this in place degraded and rusted. Like, I don't know what is going on with this. There's a couple small rust spots on the bottom that don't seem to line up with anything in this machine. And there's a bit of rust on the back side where and the rust doesn't seem to really line up where this would fall down. So maybe someone spilled something on it. The top plastic's fine, and the metal cover that goes over here is fine. So it would have to come from whatever this glue was holding this on. So yeah, don't really know about that one. But yeah, the problem with this is two things completely disintegrated destructively, and everything else is fine. Get this. It's got a battery for remembering the clock, and the battery didn't leak. This isn't the problem. This battery from 1982, older than any of the batteries you see in those computers that would always leak and destroy things. This is older than that battery I found in that 1984 Sharp that didn't leak. So let's find out if that battery is still any good. Go to clock set, focus. So I'm on clock set mode, so I believe I can just go up and down on these, yeah? So let's set to 8 or 9:50 a.m. and there's a day adjust on Thursday. Focus a little better on there. What's this, on off? I think that's probably for setting the time, or the timer, I should say. So do I just set it back to manual? I think so. All right, now power off, unplug. Let's count to 10. All right. No, it is completely useless. Yeah, that's definitely getting removed, because even though it hasn't leaked yet, it will leak at one point. And when it does, it will destroy even more than has already been destroyed in here. What does that say? Focus. To replace timer backup battery, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, okay, or just leave it empty. So this was high-end enough to have a backup battery for the timer. Interesting. See how well this comes off on camera. There's a couple, I've cleaned the shit out of this head. There's two spots, one's there, and this one here, where it looks like someone, see if I back up, will it go into focus? It looks like someone scratched this and scratched something off. There was something on there and they just took sandpaper to it. Head plays fine. It doesn't seem to be making any sounds like it's chewing at the tape, but feels fine. Like, I can't even feel that. So, yeah, nasty. For those interested in the insides, here it is. Here's the massive erase head, the full erase head. I believe this is the damper for the eject mechanism. Take a look at the eject, it goes back there. And new enough to have the IR LEDs, old school rollers. Here's the control track and audio head with the audio erase head there. Capstan and pinch. There's the dew sensor that I just glued back. And the motor for this. And take a look inside. Pretty typical. This is definitely a Panasonic. It's got a manual counter, or an old mechanical counter, sorry. So that goes to a post that then has another belt that goes to the counter. You can see there's the idler assembly, reassembled. Pretty simple machine. Watch it load. As I put this back together, I can take a look at more of the outside, more of the inside. It's got these pegs that a lot of these older machines had, so when you put it on its side, you're not pushing against the circuit boards and stuff here. So when you're working on the bottom, you can rest it on the left side here, and it's got these little maintenance pegs. The tuning section here is massive, old school. Reminds me of that VDT VCR I have. Transformer, power supplies along the back here, circuit board, another circuit board below. I don't know what you can see in there. Another circuit board. Here's the bottom side. All circuit board. It's interesting, this motor had electrical tape on it when I got it. This is how I received it. So this motor was either replaced, or a service tech did this, or this was the biggest bodge in manufacturing. I don't know what that's about. But to get inside, you literally remove the one red screw. I'm going to remove this, and then the whole thing should swing out. Alright, as you can see, I removed the one red screw, and this should just slide open to release. Oh, that's quite the reveal. And yeah, that motor sticks out a lot. This is the idler motor. That is the capstan motor. Motor for the head. Here is the drive. What would this be doing here? So there's a motor on the top here. Let's open up a little. Motor on the top here that drives this guy. And this guy drives this, which I believe controls the loading of the tape onto the head. I don't know what's doing with this here. Why it's linked that far. What is that? Well, it's doing something. Probably put a tape in and watch it and see what it does. Alright, got some light on here and a tape. So let's find play. Step 1, turn the VCR on. So that's just part of the loading. And all these belts are okay. This machine has definitely been serviced at least once, maybe twice in its life. This has been decently taken care of, I would say, which makes it a nice find. God, would you look at those wires. It's amazing what like 2 years did in simplifying these machines. Oh, and that rust I was talking about earlier, it's here. I cleaned this up. This was all nasty, rusty, and it looks like it came from the back. But what I don't understand is there's no rust above here. The dew sensor is over here, and this is at the back of the VCR. There's no evidence of any rusting or anything above it. The battery's all the way over here, and that had no sign of corrosion. So it's just this. And I don't know. I mean, this could have just been in a moist environment, and then sometimes just certain spots start to rust, and then those are where it starts, I guess. Like, there was literally moisture on the dew sensor. I don't know. It's weird. And then, if you take a look at the bottom for this, there's rust right underneath that spot I'm showing you. So yeah, I don't know. So here it is, all buttoned up. The RCA VGT-450. It's the 1983 model year series of RCA VCRs, so it was like late 82, early 83. So fairly old. This is a Panasonic built. If you look up like a PV1770, it's very similar to the previous model year of RCAs, which are very similar to this. Similar controls and everything. One big tell of RCAs and Panasonics from this era is the search controls. So visual search are actually separate buttons. I had my first VCR was actually the lowest end of the VG series of RCA VCRs. It was a VGT-200. And that one had a separate visual search button, but only forward. There was no rewind visual search, no review. And yeah, so going through the controls, soft power, you have a timer button, put in a timer mode. If it's in timer mode, this doesn't do anything. The VCR, push button selector for the speeds. When you're playing back, regardless of the position of this will indicate what the playback speed is. You have a electronic eject. No, get back in there. And then on the front we got camera, which is the line in, is meant for a camera. So right now it's in line in. Audio dub, says an audio dub feature. And the dew sensor, which I showed earlier, is all falling apart. This model does use a wireless remote. I don't have it. Not sure exactly what the right one is, but yeah. Then your controls, rewind, fast forward, which again are not your scan. These are just for rewind and fast forward. Play, record, pause, and your visual search. Now this is off because I have it in camera. You can reach in this little door here, flip it to tuner, camera light shuts off, and now we have the tuner. And this is also unique because it's black text on a translucent background. Every push button VCR I've seen, I think this is an early iteration of these push button, because all the subsequent ones were always translucent text with a black masking over them. So this is very satisfying buttons to press. Oh yeah. There's a nice VFD clock here. It's pretty dark. I'd imagine it's just been used quite a bit in its life. You can actually make it more dim, or dimmer. XPR, which is the express record feature, so I can press this and it will allow me to dial in the time, like 30 minutes, 45 minutes to record. It's got a bright protected tape in there, so I won't do it now. Going down here, we have the audio dub button is hidden down there. Tracking control, camera tuner selector, then your controls for setting the clock. So there's a manual program check that you can, I guess, glance at it, or a clock set, or a program. And then you're set for on-off when you're programming the timer. Set your day, hour, minute. Very unusual setup here. Yeah, very, very simple front. And what's interesting is I thought, okay, well, it's an RCA. It'll probably use standard RCA remote codes. No, it does not. RCA used a lot of the same remote codes, but I believe that was for Hitachi made models. So what does work on this, gotta actually aim it though, that's real slow response, is a Panasonic remote. So 100% this is a Panasonic made model. I think I'm actually getting it right this time, for once. Take a look, I just have a random test tape in there. Hit rewind. Very nice. Fast forward. Nice. Everything it does seems to be this very satisfying sound to it. It's not a loud bang or thud. It's very good. I don't know how to describe it. Very good. And I mean, this is about as fast as these old models would rewind. Oh, did it? Did it? Oh! I have memory turned on. We'll pop you out. Yes, that's the memory feature. So let's try playing a SP tape.
The music, the masterpiece.
So of course, you know, 2-head pause. That's pretty par for the course. Unpause. Fast forward. Good speed. Compared to that Panasonic made Sylvania I have that's like a year newer, this is way better. Way, 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 way better. Yeah, I mean, picture is nice and clean. Sound is good. And something good to test. It also plays SLP tapes just fine.
Know that no matter what they did under that system, they were excluded from partaking of any of that.
Tracking to one side, tracking the other side.
Does that breed a revolution?
Very clean playback. Pause. Perfect still frame.
At all.
Fast forward. Very nice. Rewind. Also very nice. Yeah, it's good. It's got no frame advance, no slow motion, none of those features. And as you can see, because this is an SLP tape, the selectors don't change anything. So this doubles as an indicator. This is right at the tail end of when everything was a separate LED on one of these machines, right before they went to one of those multi-function VFDs that Panasonic was so famous for. So this would have been right at the tail end of just a standalone VFD before they went to the, you know, those ones that have counter, clock, and play, stop written out in nice text. What's interesting is that this seems to have been made very, very close to those much newer Panasonic top loaders, like the PV1220. So this almost feels like RCA was buying old, outdated technology from Panasonic for this model in 1982, you know, early 83, which might explain why these are not very common. Like I've only seen this a handful of times. The VGT-650, there's a couple eBay listings and stuff. That one, I believe the major difference is its linear stereo. It's got a little Dolby light on it, and it's stereo audio, but other than that, it's about the same. I don't think it's got more than 2 heads on it. Still a fairly basic unit. And this looks very similar. So RCA had the 82, 83 series, the VG, the VF, which was 81, 82, and the VE, which was 80, 81. I believe I got that right. And they all look very similar. The 2 previous years looked very similar to this Panasonic style, and I think the following year, the 84 series, which I did that review of the VGT-450 right there, and that's the beginning of the Hitachi made RCAs. So this would have been right at the tail end of Panasonic making RCA VCRs. There may have been one here or there afterwards. I don't really know, but I'm pretty sure this is at the very, very end of it. Hitachi made their portables in these years, like the VGP, probably VGP 700 or something. That's a Hitachi made, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, not this one. It's so quiet. Just so elegant. It's just got such elegance to it. Move around to the top. See, it's got sort of a light silver color. And this is something that RCA did in their different trim levels of VCRs, so to speak. This is the lower end one, which has a silver finish on top. The higher end VGT-650 had like a dark gray, almost a black finish on top. And that's very similar to even like the VDT series, like 4 years earlier. The VDT-650 had a nice dark black plastic finish, and the VDT-350 that I did that video on, similar top to this. It's like a silvery plastic. So something they did, probably this was the last year they did it. Changed a lot of stuff next year. Very basic tuner. Again, this looks very similar to the VDT-350 with the color coding and the writing on there. I'll spin it around, look at the back. This thing is colossally big. So I didn't find a date on the back of here. I think that was more of a Panasonic thing to do. Pretty standard, your tuner, VHF, UHF, your VHF RF modulator. It does have a wired remote connector and an auxiliary connector on the back. And this looks like those 4-pin 12-volt power connectors that you saw on a lot of like portable VCRs and stuff. So between camera remote, auxiliary, and remote here, I'm wondering if this was if you wanted to connect up a camera, maybe? I don't know. It would make sense because your inputs here are labeled as camera. Well, it does have a microphone input for audio too. Pretty neat. You don't see that on later models. Here's all your specs. VGT-450 made in Japan. One complaint I have about this from that video with the Panasonic that I did. A lot of old equipment like this has little carry handles on either side. Stuff way older than this one does. This one doesn't. And like, I get it. I think this was meant to sit on top of your TV. But if you need to lift it up, it weighs a ton. And you're just lifting it up by this flexible plastic. And this whole top cover is only held on with 2 screws. There and on the other side. There are no screws from underneath holding this on like a Panasonic. Nothing anywhere else. So you got this flimsy plastic anytime you need to lift up this behemoth. And this weighs a lot. Not like late 70s weight, but Next year, VCRs would lose at least 5 or 8 pounds because, ooh, some nice wood grain there. And on the sides. Okay, complaint time. The previous models of this are the RCA series of these, the Panasonics. They had 2 rows of push buttons. So it makes sense that you have 2 rows of tuners. This doesn't. This has 16 buttons, and then it's just got 2 rows of 8 up here. This matches the previous year's model, not this year's model. So when you're trying to align these to this, they're not like other manufacturers who say, okay, well, this started as 2, so we're going to label it as 2, or this is lowercase a that you can see in the corner. No, none of that. You get no identifying marks here at all. You just have to know. Maybe the manual helps with that, I don't know. So this was definitely an interesting model year for RCA. I bet they didn't care too much about this particular one, as there was probably already design and talks and everything with Hitachi for the next year. So this was probably just to carry them through till 84. Complaint number 2. This is less of a problem in, say, 2020 as it would have been years ago, but a lot of these selector switches are broken. This one's missing, this one's missing, this one's missing, this one does nothing, this one does nothing, this one does not. Like, what? They're all busted. There's not, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of these are usable. Half of the push buttons on the front, the little tuner switch is busted. Now, that could be from someone going in and cleaning this. I don't know. I went in and cleaned it, but I was very, very particular. Maybe I broke them. Whatever, who cares? Okay, test recording time. Put in a tape. Just see if there's anything worthwhile on it. Nope. So, now is this one touch? No. What? That's weird. That is real weird. So, recording on SP to start with. Some stuff. Oh, I could have, this is a perfect opportunity. I could have reset the timer and done the whole, ugh. Well, you already saw memory when I didn't mean to demonstrate it, so. Let's see if it can record. Because I've run into a lot of these old machines that, oh, yeah. Run into a lot of these old machines where recording just didn't work. Seems to work. Actually, that worked really well. Is this LP? I think that might be SLP. That's SLP. That's really good. Like, that's excellent. Excellent. I mean, this is a shit source. This is, you know, not a good tuner. These push button tuners are kind of trash. See? Not great tuner. Bad tuner. Maybe if I turn AFT on. Oh, if I turn AFT on, the picture just goes away. Okay, so bad tuner. sort of working. This is definitely staying. I'm gonna keep an eye out for the remote, or I guess any information I can find on this, like owner's manual, God forbid a service manual. But yeah, it's like the belts are good. The head, despite the drum having those scuff marks, I think that's someone repairing something that had happened to it. It looks like it's been serviced several times in its life, but there was no missing screws. Everything was in excellent shape. And the only things of note besides the tuner being all busted up inside was the glue that gave way for the dew sensor, and either that glue or something else rusting that whole section. The rust towards the back, which may have been related to it, it might have just found a path to fall down, whatever that was. So, like, looking where the point of entry is, right in here, it could be that somebody spilled something on this corner and it got in there and was just at enough of an angle that it just dripped its way in. But yeah, I mean, other than that, there was the goopy idler tire, but all the belts are good. Everything was clean. Like when I went, the video head drum was dirty, but all the other tape path was just fine. So yeah, thumbs up to this one. It's kind of beautiful.